Whoops, took a minute to switch over there. Hello, everyone. That is now taken care of. Now that's interesting. I just noticed something. Why is that switched on, even though it's not switched on? How interesting. I wonder if there's something going on. Well, I can debug that later. I have OBS has decided to enable both my cameras, even though it's only using one, which is very odd to me. But hello, everyone. Happy Saturday. It is time for the Weekly Dig. I've been thinking quite a bit. Pay no attention to the sounds off camera of a bottle being uncapped and then put back into my mug of tea. I have nothing to go on. Yeah, it's kind of odd. Now OBS will do things like switch on all the cameras just so they're all ready to go. But I thought I disabled. Well, I don't have any. I don't have that camera enabled in this scene. So that's curious. I must have some background setting to turn it on. Well, it would explain why the CGI character is screwed up, because that camera is actually on, and thus the software for controlling the CGI character, my little newsfeed character, isn't working, because OBS is kind of trying to take that over. That's interesting. I am learning things new. So that's that. Oh, nice. They used a Guy Melif. Wasn't that the name of the mecha in Escaflowne? That wasn't like the Escaflowne. That is really cool. My last D&D session, the players fought up against, or came up against, a white dragon being guarded by kobolds and managed to talk their way out of it quite impressively. They were very much at the end of their adventuring day and kind of out of resources. They're like, can we find some way of not trying to fight this dragon? Now, when I say dragon, it was like 4 feet tall. It was a very young dragon. But that was a fun session. Good group. So it is Saturday night. Another week has gone by. I was mentioning in the Discord, I will be honest, I haven't really felt very excited or inspired to do much in the past week. I've been doing some work. You can see some wood there in the background. I mentioned last week I'm assembling replacement bookshelves for back here. And so made some progress on that this week, but I had a bit of a cold, so that kind of pushed that down a little bit. Oh well. Hey, Game Escape, good to see you. Yeah. So yeah, not. I'm feeling okay, but one of those weeks without motivation, which I know I've said a few weeks this time, but it is weird with the COVID-19 going around. How even if you're not sick, even if nobody you knows is sick, it's still a big adjustment without an end in sight. I think that's the hardest thing. It's one thing to say, okay, we're going to do this for the next 2 months, but saying it might go on for another several months. It might go on through the rest of the year. Who knows? Finished Code Geass. Cool, Dan. That's one of the anime on my bucket list. For me to watch one of these days. We shall see. What I have added to my tea tonight is a little bit of rum. I have a large jar, because I made those Joe Frogger cookies a couple months back, which were very good, and I should probably make a bit more. But it requires a little bit of rum, so I have, 95% of a bottle of rum here, so I should probably get through that. So just getting a little dash in my tea, which is a nice little, nice soupçon, a nice little punch of alcohol, but not enough to really matter. That's still hot. Wah, needs a minute. Anyone have a anime otaku bucket list? So we were talking about this earlier. Obviously there's the the locational bucket list, Akihabara, Ghibli Museum. We talked about some of those. And there's also the anime bucket lists. That's an interesting question. What are the anime that you like to, that you want to watch someday? I actually have a list right here, as it happens. Actually, 2 lists right here of anime I want to watch that either I own. Actually, these are all anime that I own that I'm like, I should probably watch these at some point, because, I've bought them, and that would be good. And some of these are, not a big deal, but I definitely like to watch at some point. So I've got Nadia, which again we got halfway through. Utena, which we're watching every week after the weekly dig. So in an hour or so, we will switch over to SciTube and watch some more of Revolutionary Girl Utena, which is definitely getting interesting. It became a lot more adult this past week. Brain Powered, a rather controversial Yoshiyuki Tomino mecha anime series. Definitely a show that kind of throws you right in the middle of what's going on, and not very popular, but a lot of folks think there's some really good stuff there. Maybe an underappreciated bit of genius. Razafon, obviously Razafon. Um, One Piece, folks are saying. All the Tatsunoko stuff, yeah. Saikano, which was a really huge anime that came out in America in the mid 2000s. Sort of a very serious romance series with some sci-fi fantastic, sci-fi aspects to it, but there's really punch in the gut stuff in that show. I saw the first couple episodes and was like, wow. Last Exile, Wolf's Rain, Air, Canon, Clannad. That's probably the big one. The key visual arts, visual novel, anime adaptations, and obviously the visual novels as well. But that's a really big one. It is good question. The anime is Saikano. Basically, there's a girl who is also a amazing biological weapon, right? But she forms this relation with a guy, and it gets very serious because she could die at any point. So it's that kind of a thing. Treated very seriously, which was nice. So those definitely Ergo Proxy because Ergo Proxy. Everyone talks about it. Darker Than Black. I've never seen Darker Than Black, which just looks like a great time. Gurren Lagann. I haven't finished. Kashurin Sins. Soul Eater, just because they put so much budget into that show that looks like kind of the perfect shonen series to just really enjoy. Yeah. Sai Kano is different from Sai Kano, which is very annoying. I'm actually. Oh no, Moaro Penguindrum, which looks ridiculous and crazy. It's by the same guy as who did Utena. Ghost in the Shell will Rise, obviously, and then Gundam Iron Blooded Orphans, which I started, and there are a few other sort of random things that I own and should finish out. Kujibiki Unbalance, Lost Universe, Mononoke, Moonlight Mile, No Yin, or on High School Host Club. That looks like it'd be a good run. Yeah, IBM I'm definitely looking forward to. Yeah, Saikano. There's a scene that's stuck in my mind that I'm not going to spoil, but it's one of those scenes where you're like, oh, right? Yeah, Penguindrum. Again, Penguindrum is by Kunihiko Ikuhara, who is just weird. Apparently, personally, as well as in his shows, you just have to sit back and go, okay, this is going to be an acid trip, and I just have to accept that. The acid trip will be, it will be intentional, right? Like all of that symbolism will actually tie in. It's not just random imagery, but it is going to be very, very strange. Interesting, Firemaster. I see that. So sort of, don't binge Arise. Fair enough. I can see that because it was really released more as an episodic thing. So. I haven't seen Steins Gate either. That's actually one that should probably be on the list. It hasn't really gotten there. I wouldn't mind finishing Gundam Age either, because Gundam Age, unfortunately takes a very long time to get anywhere, and it's basically takes place in 3 story arcs. It's literally generational, and it took so long to get anywhere, and it was really aimed at a younger audience. But when it reached the end of that first arc, it was like, okay, this is Gundam. Like, you are executing on every Gundam thing. So I'd really like to get back into that at some point. Just there were too many other things I was watching at the point when that came out. But Tokyo Magnitude, I want to watch that too. Watched the first episode of that a while back and was like, okay, this is not going to be a lighthearted comedy. Having a hard time turning a Gundam. I can understand that. Turn A is probably my favorite Gundam series, but just because it very much speaks to my tastes. And even there, I had a hard time getting through like the middle of Turn A. It is very slow, and it kind of wanders, it meanders a lot plot wise, but it does come back in. So around 2/3, 3/4 of the way through, it kind of finds its feet again, and then it's just racing towards the end. It really stuff happens in that show, despite the fact that it doesn't seem to happen. And ironically, the theme of Turn A is not wanting things to happen. Turn A is weird. So for those not familiar, Turn A was the 20th anniversary Gundam series, by the creator of Gundam, and it was really, Tomino coming back and making like really strong statements about what he felt Gundam should be, and the messages Gundam should have, and so it's really it's kind of an anti-Gundam series in the sense that it is trying to counteract a lot of the messaging that had come across in Gundam, or counteract a lot of the fan direction of Gundam, and saying no, this is what this is about, and so I'm going to tell a story that is not structured the way you're used to in Gundam, but is still telling that, or is telling that message, is sending that message. Yeah, I mean, Tono's series do tend to bounce around a lot. Overman King Gainer, woo! I would argue the entire ending of Overman King Gainer is a tangent, in a weird way. But yeah, it's weird. I have not watched Detective Pikachu because I'm not a Pokemon guy. Sorry. I didn't grow up with Pokemon, so I've caught a few things here and there. But Ideon, yeah, I will say Ideon. You can skip to the end of Ideon. That's basically what I did. I watched a good chunk of Ideon, and then when I got like 10 or 12 episodes in, or maybe like 15, 20, I went online and checked the descriptions, and they're like, okay, and Battle of the Week, 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 until like episode 40, and then the plot actually kicks in again. There are a few things here and there, but generally speaking, Ideon is very much, just sort of random combat, for a good chunk in the middle there. So you can fast forward. Gundam are definitely fun to build. HMS Team Peak Gundam, I can see that. Want the fully on experience? Fair enough. I mean, it's hard for me to say that because, I think there are other Gundam series that do certain things better than 8th MS Team. But 8th MS Team is definitely one of those series that managed to do many things well, many things effectively. So, like, for me, 8th MS Team is like, if you haven't watched Gundam, start there. Like, that is kind of the ideal introduction to Gundam. Unless there's something else you're familiar with, but yeah. When there's stuff before and after 8th MS that I would put above it in certain areas. The way the story is woven in Zeta Gundam, I think, is one of the great achievements of anime. Rarely have I seen a story go off in so many different directions and then tie back in at the end in ways that I did not see coming, and not in a way of like shock revelation, but in the sense of, oh, that's why that character was acting that way, because because they were making a point, because that action caused this reaction, and they were making a point about that reaction, right? It wasn't a matter of oh my gosh, and now I know that this thing is happening. No, it's like that personality was being presented to you specifically so you can make a statement about the actions that personality took. Really interesting. Thoughts on the Zeta movies versus the Zeta series? Really interesting. So, spoiler alert. I'm going to try to be light on the spoilers here. The original Zeta Gundam series has one of the most controversial endings in anime of all time. And I would argue the darkest ending I've ever seen in anime. Depending on how you define that, but certainly tonally, it is an extraordinarily dark ending, and I would put that up against pretty much any other anime I'd see out there. The Zeta Gundam movies came in, and they changed some of the plot. Obviously, they condensed some things. It's a 3-movie synthesis of that. But they reworked a lot of the plot, and the ending is quite different. Quite surprising. And I like it. I appreciate that because the original ending to me felt a little bit edgelord. It felt a little, I want to have a dark ending, so I'm just going to, I'm going to throw all the switches to, the blackest of black. And it didn't really, that extremism didn't quite fit the tone of the entire series. The series definitely has a dark tone. It definitely does, trend towards sort of this dark ending. But it went just so far in that ending that it just felt a little bit like, just a little unnecessary. I'm forgetting his name, the guy who wrote Brave New World, spoiler alert for Brave New World, he said later in life that he kind of regrets the final ending of Brave New World because he said, at the time I was young and I thought that if you're going to tell a dramatic story, you have to end with a bleak tragedy, right? Like that's how you're serious. That's how you show people that you're telling a really serious story is if the main character, blows his brains out at the end. That's not what happens. But, that kind of thing. And he said, and now that I've had some time, I realized you can have a dark ending without going that far. It just feels a little adolescent at times. And so for me, I really liked that Zeta Gundam. Yes, and that's the interesting thing, is that the ending of the Zeta Gundam movies essentially invalidates Double Zeta Gundam. Double Zeta Gundam cannot happen in that way, because given the ending of Zeta Gundam. It is essentially a new timeline, which is really interesting. I don't know, I'm kind of surprising there. As far as from what I understand, Spin, when Zeta Gundam came out, folks, otaku's jaws just dropped. Like, you don't do that at the end of an anime series. Now, there had been dark endings in anime before. I'm forgetting the name of it now. But a Tomino series from 1978, which I mentioned before, has an extraordinarily dark ending. But Zeta Gundam being an extremely high-profile series that was, the first really ever sequel anime in that way, where it's like we did this whole, thing, and now we're going to do a whole sequel series. It is continuing that. Zeta Gundam was unprecedented, and then to have that ending was really shocking. You just, you don't do that, basically. So yeah, it was really, really crazy. Will I do an IBO watch along with my friends? I might. Not a bad idea. Kind of like Utna. I would love to do that. Yeah, I've not seen any more Plunder yet, so I unfortunately I can't comment on that. But that is something I'd kind of like to do. Abyss. Well, I think you've actually seen the really the moments that traumatized me in Made in Abyss. So I think you've been spoiled on that. So fortunately, that's not gonna hit you the way it hit me. So I think you'll be fine. So yeah, I'm and here's the other thing. I am really happy that a creator is willing to go back to one of their earlier works and look at it and say, okay, given who I am now, how would I write this? What would I do? and rethinking that, coming up with a new thing. The Zeta Gundam movies do not cause every copy of the Zeta Gundam TV series to immediately vaporize, right? We still have the Zeta Gundam TV series. It doesn't go away. We just have another interpretation, and I love seeing that. I love it when creators come back and kind of reimagine their work. I think it's really, really cool. So I love them Zeta Gundam movies. Now you have the problem, and this is something that I try to tell people. Anytime you see a movie adaptation of something, it's always going to feel rushed, because there's going to be all of this, relationship building that you don't get, and that's certainly true in the Zeta Gundam movies. I think Zeta Gundam particularly does not benefit from a lot of that slow build and that slow character progression that you get from Zeta Gundam. And Zeta Gundam, to me, again, I think is really the story of these characters bouncing off each other. Really, in a lot of ways, Zeta Gundam is one of the most eloquent expressions of the idea of the hollowness of revenge. Because a lot of the characters in there are motivated by revenge in various ways. In particular, the sort of main recurring villain is very much revenge driven. You understand why. Like, it is understandable. But it's also just very clear where that's come from and what and why that is driving the poor decisions he's making. I really like that. Yeah, exactly. Camille evolves as a character. Camille being, in my opinion, as far as I can tell, the first anime protagonist on the autism spectrum. I don't know that they expected that at the time, or they thought that at the time, but he's, by modern standards, he is clearly pretty, on the pretty strong end of that spectrum. So it's interesting seeing that in an anime protagonist, especially a big shonen protagonist. So to see how he comes to grips with that, how that evolves out of him, and how he kind of the situations that he's in definitely polish the rough edges off of some of those aspects of his personality, which is really interesting. It's one of the things that I think you could do in that period in anime. You could have this kind of subtle character progression over the course of many, many episodes, where today the focus is more on just kind of plot and on visuals and things like that. We really don't focus much on character development the way we used to. I mean, that's not old fogey. It's just I think the medium has shifted. Folks aren't really interested in that as much anymore. You have to have stuff happening every episode. Not that nothing happened back in the day, but that that was sort of interwoven in a way that these days people. And the problem. Modern fans don't want their characters to change. That's really the fundamental tension. Is that otaku over the 90s and 2000s made it very clear, particularly the 2000s and 2010s, they made it very clear that they want their characters to be exactly as they are and ageless and timeless and Hatsune Miku. That's what they want out of their characters. Don't change. Don't ever change. I would argue that the Endless Eight are very much a commentary on that in Haruhi Suzumiya. But that's, that is the nature of the modern business, is that if you do a show where characters change dramatically, it's going to be, you're going to have a more difficult time keeping, your audience. Folks want these sort of ageless characters. And it's easier to do a franchise out of that, right? You can have as many sequels as you want. You can have as many movies as you want, because your characters are going to be set, and that's going to be that thing. It's funny going back and watching for Oncon, watching the first episodes of some of those shonen series, watching Yu Yu Hakusho, and seeing how much Yusuke is really an uninteresting character in that first episode. He's a punk, but he's not even really a lovable punk. He's just this street kid, and he's pretty unlovable. Like there's not much of a spark in there. Obviously, he saves the kid, but his personality just isn't very engaging, and because it took a while for him to get there, right? That was part of his plot, was for him to go there. Yeah, he was very much near. I guess at number 55. It's kind of the interesting thing to me about Yu Yu Hakusho is you can see that series as being an anime series in which the second set of bad guys that the protagonist comes across in any shonen anime, the gang of punks that bumps into the character in the road and then shouts at them and then shoves them down and then gets their ass kicked. That gang are the protagonists of Yu Yu Hakusho, right? Yu Yu Hakusho is about random street punks, and that's what I think is really interesting. If Shinto and Buddhism play roles in the background of Japanese experience, then does Kabuki and no storytelling feature more than Western ideas in storytelling? I don't know if it's more than, but certainly they're more prevalent than in Western media. The idea of symbolism, the idea of, particularly of what's not there. So in manga, the famous which has now come into Western media. My boss used it with me recently, actually, which is weird. That is very much sort of Kabuki and no theater. It is the pause. It's what's not being said is sort of inserted in there. So I think those have definitely influenced quite a lot. Well, done Inuyasha versus Yu Yu Hakusho, two series I saw about 10 episodes each back in the early 2000s, and either liked or disliked, and not know what to think of them. Thoughts. I think like a lot of shonen anime series, it's kind of do you like these characters? The idea of Kagame and Inuyasha in this sort of slightly DS, situation, slight dominance issues going on there. But also in this sort of big fantasy thing that's very much influenced by Japanese yokai and traditional supernatural monsters. And it's sort of back and forth between definitely a girl with kind of a stiff spine and this guy with a stiff spine. Like if those things work, then you go. Yu Yu Hakusho is again about. I actually had a friend many years ago. We used to talk about this, and she was big on Yu Yu Hakusho, and she didn't say this specifically, but I suspect that Yu Yu Hakusho, based on her descriptions, also appealed a lot to people who liked seeing the bad boy, the story of the bad kid, the sweet girl who always ends up with the bad boy. Why does she like the bad kid? I think it's kind of that, right? Enjoying the punk, if that. But it is, it's shonen, so there's filler. Like it is very much that formula. Got to be aware of that. I don't believe in guilty pleasures, but I understand the concept. I think if it's a pleasure, just don't just let it be a pleasure. Don't don't get worked up about it. Like it's something you like. That's fine. I might, JJ. We'll see. But did y'all hear that? Fair warning, I have not read the news yet. I've not looked at this script yet, so we'll see if I stumble or get confused or do all that. So there may be a take 2 on this one this week. We'll see. All right. Whoa. Hello, and welcome to the latest anime news for the week ending April 25th, 2020. We usually start the week's news off with new anime announcements, but tonight's first announcement isn't quite an anime, but I think it merits the opening spot nonetheless. It was reported this week that Sony is developing a live-action Hollywood film adapting the One Punch Man manga, specifically. The script's being written by Scott Rosenberg and Jeff Pinkner, who previously collaborated on the Venom and Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle film scripts. Arad Productions' Avi and Ari Arad, who worked on the live-action Ghost in the Shell, as well as Spider-Man Homecoming and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and other Marvel properties, are doing the movie's production. And Avi Arad has been doing adaptations for decades. Yusuke Murata and One launched the One Punch Man manga on Shueisha's free Tonari no Young Jump website back in 2012 as a remake of One's original One Punch Man web manga. The manga is still ongoing, with the 122nd chapter published just this week. And I gotta admit, of all of the manga to adapt, One Punch Man is one of the more Western ones. Whatever you think of Hollywood adaptations, this one is sure to spark quite the discussion, but certainly not the weirdest choice. And now, back to our regularly scheduled new anime announcements. A website opened this week to announce the upcoming Iwakakeru Sport Climbing Girls television anime. The new anime will adapt Ryudai Ishizaka's Iwakakeru Climbing Girls manga, and its follow-up, Iwakakeru, ! Try a New Climbing. The two manga center around girls competing in sport climbing. First-year student and puzzle game genius Konomi Kasahara discovers the sport after stumbling upon the climbing wall at her new school, and comes to find that the sport makes full use of both one's mind and one's body. And I suspect that bodies are very much an aspect of why this anime is being made. The first manga launched on Cygame's Saikomi website in 2017, and Shogakukan released the first compiled volume of the second manga in February. So this is a pretty new one. Yeah, I have no idea why folks would think this would be popular. I don't know. Publisher Kodansha announced on Tuesday that Divine Workplace comedy manga Heaven's Design Team is inspiring a television anime. It is basically the story of a group of office workers who are being told by God to design various new animals every day while contending with unreasonable requests from their client, namely God. It's funny, it's quite interesting, and it's got a lot of useful information, and answers certain interesting questions around, why can't unicorns exist? Why do certain animals taste delicious? Things like that. The manga also includes related encyclopedia entries and promises to, quote, make your next trip to the zoo or aquarium 100 times more fun, end quote. Created by Hebizo, Tsuta Suzuki, and Tarako, the manga launched in Kodansha's Morning magazine in 2017 and got its fifth compiled volume just this week. I've actually read this manga, and it is a lot of fun and reasonably informational. So if you're looking for both fun and learning in your new anime, keep an eye out for this one. Let's see here, moving on. Oh yes, so we finish up our announcements with another educational anime. This time an anime adaptation. Toei announced on Sunday that it will be producing an anime film based on study manga series Kagaku Manga Survival, or Science Manga Survival. The film, titled Jintai no Survival, a lot of survivals there, is set to screen alongside the previously announced Ganbare wa Robocon film in Japan starting on July 31st, though Toei noted that the opening date may still change for reasons you can probably guess at this point. The all-color manga and study book series originated in South Korea by Gomdoriko and illustrator Hyundong Han. It originally launched in 2008, so a while back, and weaves science lessons into various stories about children on adventures. As of February, Asahi Shimbun has published 70 volumes in this series, so the new film should have plenty of material to work with. God. No Starch Press has also released some of the series in English under the title Survive Inside the Human Body for those of you looking for some lighthearted otaku learning, apparently, inside the human body. Now, if you've been keeping up with the otaku news for a while, you've surely seen the stories about pirated manga popping up over the last several months. One you might remember centered around illegal manga aggregator Manga Rock, who, after being heavily criticized for providing pirated manga, stated last September that they would shut down their site and focus on legal distribution methods. Well, as of this week, the Manga Rock service has officially been shut down. Took a little while. And a beta has been launched for a new legitimate distribution app. The new INKR, or Inker platform, has partnered with various publishers, including Tokyopop, FanFan, Comic Loft, and Tan Comics, or Tan Comics, to publish manga, manhwa, and webtoons. So far, the beta version includes home and explore tabs, an adaptive viewer, and an account system, and plans to add features like My Library and personalized recommendations in the future. Because as we all know, recommendation engines are really easy and work really well. Manga Rock was originally created by a group of college students back in 2010, there's a shocker, and focused on gathering scanlations that were already released. Following the criticisms last fall, the creators stated, quote, "At that time, we didn't understand the manga industry, and we didn't know the origin of the scanlations, including things without official licenses. As time has passed, we have come to understand the damage being incurred by manga creators and publishers," end quote. They went on to encourage other scanlation websites to shut down as well. In other words, they probably got served. Looking for a way to read manga digitally, but don't want to use your phone or computer? Well, how about your Nintendo console? That's right, InkyPen, a comic subscription service for the Nintendo Switch, announced yesterday that it is now partnering with Kodansha USA to offer manga. Kodansha USA Publishing handles the Kodansha Comics, and Vertical imprints, which include major titles like Attack on Titan, Fairy Tail, and Parasite. The announcement states that hundreds of fan-favorite manga are now available on the service, and that is pretty darn cool. InkyPen launched in the US, Canada, Europe, Mexico, Russia, Africa, and Australia in December 2018, and features an all-you-can-read subscription for $8 per month. Sorry, $7.99 per month. Anyway, let's just be accurate. It's $8. Our next bit of news is a positive one for any mobile game fans out there. Anime studio Pierrot and smartphone game publisher KLab have announced a new business alliance. Through the partnership, the companies plan to develop their collaboration, with KLab adapting more of Pierrot's video content, like anime, into mobile games, merchandise, and events. Pierrot and KLab previously partnered to create the Bleach Brave Souls smartphone game and the Yu Yu Hakusho 100% Magi Battle smartphone game. So I guess you can expect more of those. Now, in these tough times, people have been finding new ways to get together with their communities and to host events, and the anime industry is no exception. This weekend brings the, quote, Eva Ie no Mi event, which will stream the 3 new theatrical versions of Evangelion films 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0. The event will also use the new Google Meet service to host guests and lucky fan participants during the streams. The films and commentary will stream on YouTube for free. The 1.0 film already streamed last night, but you can still catch 2.0 and 3.0 tonight at 2 a.m. Eastern Time and 8 a.m. Eastern Time, respectively. Evangelion theme song singer Yoko Takahashi will appear for all the screenings, and other guests are also planned to attend. Will Ano be there? I have no idea. 80 total people will be chosen to participate in tomorrow's chat groups. 80. Better than nothing, I suppose. Fans can enter to win a spot in the chat by posting on either Twitter or Instagram with the hashtag StayHomeEva. And if that's not enough, Evangelion, the first 3 Evangelion Rebuild films, are also now streaming for free on YouTube. There aren't any subtitles included with the films, but If you understand Japanese or just enjoy existential mech fights as background noise, those will definitely be available through April 30th. Why not? And good on them for providing those, for free for everyone. That's cool. Now, the increase in working and study from home has also brought an increase in people participating in video calls, and entertainment properties are responding to make these a little more exciting. A number of anime, manga, and video game properties have begun posting background art for folks to use behind them as they video call in Zoom, let's be honest. So if you ever wanted your coworkers to think you're working from a Ghibli forest, a Shirobako office, or even an Eva hangar, your time has come. Just maybe, I don't know, be careful. Shirobako's official Twitter account posted a set of backgrounds from the show, including a shot of the room the director imprisons himself inside in order to focus on getting his storyboards done. That couldn't be creepy at all. The Evangelion Twitter account also posted a series of wallpapers, including 8 visuals from the Rebuild films and 8 sound-only images, so the sound-only stuff in the background. The account did stress these images are to be for personal use only and are not to be reposted. Sure, that'll work. The Studio Ghibli wallpaper collection is available on their official website and includes settings from Nausicaa, the Valley of Wind, Princess Mononoke, Spirited Away, and Howl's Moving Castle, among others. Again, good on them for doing that. Even Shonen Jump got in on the fun and tweeted scenes of conference meetings taken from the One Piece, Bleach, and Naruto manga series. That's pretty funny. Several video game series also contributed, including Street Fighter, Grand Blue Fantasy, and Touken Ranbu. So hey, spicing up Zoom a little bit. Speaking of spicing things up, last up this week, a classic virtual pet with a strange anime twist. That's right, those are angels. Evangelion is collaborating with the Tamagotchi toy line, which apparently is still a thing, to produce Ivachi. I'm not kidding, which will allow users to raise their very own angels. The, quote, all-purpose egg-type battle weapons Ivachi, end quote, will come in 3 types based on the main characters in the series: the EVA 00 prototype, the EVA 01 test type, and the EVA 02 production model. Just like classic Tamagotchis, the type of angel obtained will depend on the methods used for raising them. Along with more than 20 types of angels, the official website even teases the possibility of raising Arei and Kaoru as well. Boy. According to the lore of the Ivachis, the devices are filled with LCL, the fictional liquid depicted in the series, which allows an EVA pilot to mentally link with their unit. Owners will also need to feed their angels by giving them S2 engines, the source of their power. Thankfully, it's not, the souls of teenagers. Once the angels have been fully raised, they will, of course, produce an AT field. Along with the care and feeding of angels, the device will include mini-games like battle training. From time to time, users will even be able to see famous EVA scenes and characters on those screens. The Ivachis will go on sale in June for 2,530 yen, or about $23. That's all the news for this week. Thanks for watching. See you next week. That's weird. That is very weird. So I think, that might have been, I think, one second. Yeah. Oh my goodness, you just saw that I'm wearing sweats. Oh my goodness, what's going on with the camera? Hold on. Camera. There we go. Let me fix that. There we go. I got a digital copy of Heaven's Design Team, and again, really enjoyed it. That was fun. JJ, they probably already have made a Tang orange goo thing. There's Eva coffee, you name it, it's there. Yeah, apparently Tamagotchi's still a thing. I think, in fairness, Tamagotchi has been a thing in Japan, ever since they came out. They just kind of died in America. Oh, that's cool, Jay. Let me see if I can pull that up. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, can't find that right at the moment. There it is. Cool. So as part of the Right Stuff order, you can add any amount of dollars to your order by basically buying this stuff in $1 increments. And that money will go to provide meals for healthcare workers. That's really cool. So buy anime and add some cash onto there. And you can provide meals for healthcare workers. That's really cool. I'm just going to slack that out. Yes, Charming Sketches, we're going to watch more of Revolutionary Girl Utena, the classic 1995 anime series that was pretty revolutionary. Sort of the very much a commentary on gender, women's rights, the role of women in Japanese society. A lot of interesting stuff. So yeah, that'll be the plan for Side 2 for us tonight. Yeah, it must have been my AT field. That's a good idea. Speaking of that idea, I want to open this up to you guys. This is a really weird idea I have. Really weird idea. I am not... I really want to do this, but I haven't quite conceptualized it yet. Oh, you want to watch more Green Gables? That's awesome. And Green Gables is amazing. But, so I've been watching some of Mystery Science Theater 3000, and I came across a show. One second. There was this Prisoners of Gravity. Let me see if I can find a Prisoners of Gravity. It was a science fiction show from a while back. That's not it. But basically, the idea was that they interviewed science fiction authors and science fiction creators. But the premise of the show is that this guy was shot up into space. And from this sort of orbiting satellite, he is, and he's a big sci-fi geek, he now has the power to kind of beam in and talk to all these sci-fi authors, but all the sci-fi stuff he's always wanted to know. And I really love that idea. And I love the idea of a show where there is some goofy premise going on. The main characters have been shot into space, or they're in an underground bunker, or whatever. That's kind of the premise of the show, and I kind of want to do that with this. I want to have a big green screen in the background with some crazy, showing me in a bunker or on an archaeological dig or something, and have that be some kind of... I've not heard of the show Space Force Brent, but that sounds like a show I would like. And I just want to try out something or some segment of the Weekly Dig or something where there's like a background setting. There's some premise to it. It's not just me in front of a camera, right? Yeah, I would love to do that, but again, I have no idea like what would the premise be, and I'd still want there to be chat. Like I still want there to be some audience interaction or something. I don't know. I think it would be really fun to have some show where, again, I can still be talking about anime, but I'm actually broadcasting from, a satellite or a some remote satellite station, some remote radio station or something like that. I don't know. I've heard of the show Space Force. That sounds vaguely familiar. Obviously, there's Royal Space Force Wings of Honey Mise. And of course, now we just get the actual U.S. Space Force. This is a new thing. Interesting. John Malkovich. Huh. I had not heard of that. Sounds like right up my alley. So I'm kind of throwing this out to you guys, and not that we all have to come up with the idea right now, but I think it would be fun to throw together some kind of ongoing show that has a premise and some kind of plot. Oh, it's from the 80s. Okay, that's different. Space Force, 1980. I see one from 1978. Is that the one? TV movie. A television show. Hold on. Let me go to the Wikipedia disambiguation page for Space Force. There's a BBC radio series, a TV series, video game. Ooh. So there was a BBC radio serial called Space Force in the mid-'80s. This is the other problem with a lot of this stuff is... Oh, Starcom. Yes, Starcom I definitely know of. I had Starcom toys, actually. Although I never watched much of the series. I don't think it was available in syndication in my area. But those toys were amazing. I really loved the fact that Spacecom had this sort of industrial quality. That basically everything, kind of like Gundam, all of their military technology were obviously converted space colony industrial machinery. And definitely turned into military machinery. It's not let's just toss a gun onto this. But there's something really cool about that. Fundraiser to on a 0G plane ride and have them try to do anime reviews in 0G. I would do that. I would definitely do that. Space Above and Beyond. So I think we all like the idea of some kind of sci-fi premise. I'm up for that. The twist there is it's going to be hard for me to interact with an audience about modern anime if I'm doing a segment set in the future. And that's what I'm trying to deal with. I once tried to do it probably was animated in Japan, by the way. Starcom, pretty much all the weekday afternoon, adventure series were actually secretly animated in Japan. I'm kind of intrigued by the idea of something science fiction-y. Maybe it's modern but science fictional. I don't know. 0G love, 0G love. Anyone who's here for the Macross movie now knows that reference. Now, of course, I could just do a sci-fi segment, but I kind of like to do something that, again, not only has some kind of setting, but also has an ongoing storyline. Now, that storyline doesn't have to be like a written drama. It could be I'm talking about anime, but then I hear a sound in some other part of the ship, and I have to go and investigate. And then I change the background or something and do segments. I just think that kind of thing would be fun, just to have kind of an ongoing thing. This was actually very much inspired by a radio show called The Diner, which was I think a 4-hour. So this guy basically had a 4-hour block on the radio, and obviously he wasn't talking the entire time. He would just come in between music. But he was broadcasting from an old diner off Old Highway 23. And he always had in the background the sound of, plates clinking and general, people talking. And he kept, and he would just kind of talk about what was going on and his life and so forth. But then something would happen in the diner every episode. Somebody would come in with a package, and you try to figure out what the package was, and it was all very improv. and then that would progress. And his rule was there has to be something has to happen in every episode. It can't just be me talking. There has to be some little plot that gets resolved by the end of the episode, and every episode must refer back to at least one previous episode. Not all of them, but there must be some continuity, and that sounds like really really fun. Yeah, Tom on the Absolution, which by the way was the name of the spaceship on Toonami. For some reason that stuck in my brain. I'd love to be Tom. I actually toyed around with doing a podcast where the premise was that I was stuck on like a sister ship of the Absolution, cruising around space, picking up all these anime transmissions and talking about them. And I think that'd be kind of fun. Interesting, Endman. That could be too. Limited release. That's certainly possible as well. Can we schedule like the idea of that podcast? Yeah. And again, it'd be kind of fun to have like an actual video game. And the funny thing is, I kind of have my general style is already kind of, vaguely military outfit anyway. So I think, you stick some rank on here, a little rank bar, and this would be an outfit. There'd be a costume. Actually, I have some magnets over there. I could even like 3D print a little bar and some patches and something, and just like, glue some metal on the back, and then use magnets to just clip it onto the shirt, and that's my uniform. That would be kind of fun. I used to produce podcast audio of a lot of the stuff I did, but it never really caught on iTunes. I think they're still on iTunes. I think Talking to a Video is still on iTunes, so I can actually export all this stuff as audio, but just the content never really fit. I never really had a consistent process, and obviously the anime reviews on YouTube are much more visual, so they don't really make as much sense as audio, although I suppose I could. Not a terrible idea. So that's an idea. 1 second. I'm very hot, and I suspect that there's something up with the AC. There is not. I'm just having hot flashes. I don't know. So yeah, maybe some kind of science fictional show where I'm on a spaceship and talking about things. Talking about anime or talking about something else. It might be fun to do an occasional show where I'm talking about like non-anime stuff. So maybe, I've always talked about how I want to do reviews of cheesy fantasy and science fiction. Maybe that would be a better, place for that, where instead of doing them as the Tuesday reviews, those kind of stay anime, and I have this occasional series every couple of weeks where it's me on a spaceship talking about that. That might be fun. And then have, again, like some kind of repeating plot. And I'd like to do that, again, kind of as part of the weekly dig, where I shoot those segments here in the room. You guys get to watch me. That'd be kind of fun. Yeah, maybe that would work. I have to rig up that. I've actually spent some time last night trying to figure out a green screen rig. I have some green screen cloth in the back. Once a month, I'll put it on YouTube. If people could talk about one, could talk about other sci-fi. Yeah, I like that idea. And maybe I can produce it such that, again, like there's video content that you can see, but I also render it out as audio, so you can just listen to the audio if you'd rather have kind of that audio experience. Yeah, I don't think it's not like particularly hot here. It's actually been kind of pleasant here today, like 60s. But for some reason, like inside this room right now, it doesn't help that I have 3 lamps on me right now. But whatever. By the way, there's no anime history this week. Stuff happened in anime history, but I don't have anything in my notes for this week for anime history. So I'm not going to do that segment this time. I am planning to tweet out some anime history and starting to schedule all those out, though, by the way. So hopefully, if you do follow G Archaeology, the letter G Archaeology, you will get occasional tweets about anime history, plus other stuff I'm talking about. Trying to get more consistent about that. The kind of deep dive on anime you do, and that's more valuable in my opinion. Yeah, well, I kind of like to do a deep dive on sci-fi. Matt Colville is doing, he says he's doing a series, he's only on the first one, a series on Dune, the novel, where he's like doing a deep dive. He did, the first episode is on a scene that's in the appendix of Dune. It's not even in the main story, but he says is actually like key to understanding what's going on with the Fremen and the basic, powder keg situation that kicks off the plot of Dune. I kind of like to do that and talk about Foundation, the Asimov Foundation series. Talk about there's a series of sci-fi Civil War books that I read back in the day. In fact, my first publication credit was for a review of those books. I'll be doing that. Have I read Dune? I have read Dune multiple times. Dune is my favorite book of all time. I love, love, love Dune. More than Dune, I identify very strongly with Dune and a lot of the themes in Dune. A lot of what it talks about are things that I believe, and it was also very influential on me on sort of clarifying a lot of my thoughts on those things. Philip K. Dick, I read a good chunk of Philip K. Dick. Well, I say that I've read Do I Know Dream of Electric Sheep? I think I read something else of his, but honestly not too much. I'm not a huge fan of Dick's style. It's kind of fragmented, which again is intentional. But the Terry Goodwin sort of Truth series, Planet Reading the Wheel of Time. Wheel of Time, oh man. I read the Wheel of Time books as they were coming out, and then eventually petered off around book 9, I think. But I love Wheel of Time. And Wheel of Time, that is a series I could go deep on. Because actually there are quite a few tie-ins with Dune in Wheel of Time. Very obviously. Haven't read Dune yet. Which Dune did you see? Because there was the David Lynch film, there was the Sci-Fi Channel adaptation. Flowers for Algernon. I don't think I read that, no, sadly. Keep looking at anime, by viewing it, how to set it up on what you know from, like, how building worlds from. Sorry, Jay, I cannot, don't understand what you're asking there. Yeah, they oh, God's Wheel of Time. Okay. How much Wheel of Time do I still have? Because I condensed down my stuff. I don't think I have much of any Wheel of Time anymore. Those covers were terrible. Not just in the sense of, like, proportions. Proportions were okay. But a lot of them was just, no. Like, that's not what that character looks like. So... This is the cover of the first novel, the first paperback. This is, by the way, just to, establish myself. This is the 1990 publication of Eye of the World. And man, it's kind of falling apart, isn't it? No one wears armor. No one wears that armor in this book. That character is not described as being anything like that. That woman is, I believe, has black hair. She's also physically taller in the book than the guy. It's just, what? And like every book that came out, even when the series got incredibly popular, the guy kept screwing it up. And then there's the famous Choo Choo cover. Let me see if I can show you this. Wheel of Time covers. Now we're going to see all the new ones. I think he repainted one because it was so bad, and I want to show you the original. Um, there it is. No, there it is. So actually, I'm going to screen share this because it's worth seeing. Here's what you're going to get, guys, if we actually do this. So this is what you might have to kind of get used to. Actually, oh, I'll just show you the desktop. So here it is. Here's this cover. This is the entire cover. And the thing is, I want you to look at Rand's pose there. Very natural, isn't it? That's how people definitely stand in real life. So yeah, covers in that definitely needed work. Let's see here. Need a Matthew Terry Patrick book to know where I need to go. Start anywhere. I would look up the Commander Vimes books. Fortunately, there's not, there is definitely sort of plot progression, but it doesn't really matter where you get in. Like, you're not, he's not married at this point. He's married at that point. That kind of stuff. But you don't need to understand any of the backstory of any of that stuff. Just jump in. I definitely have some recommendations. And did I ever watch Dune? Yes, I've seen the David Lynch movie several times. I've seen the Sci-Fi Channel adaptation once and liked it. Like, it was solid, but just didn't need to go back and watch it again. Yeah, William, I'm not sure of that. David Lynch said studio intervention ruined Dune. I don't think there's a lot in Dune there that could be saved. I think Lynch's the way Lynch approached Dune had some fundamental problems. I think, and I do not hate that movie. I am fine with that movie. I think Dune is incredibly hard to adapt. But I think just Lynch's general tone and approach to it, the stuff he added, to me felt, I don't want to say unnecessary, but had its issues. We'll say that. Riders of Pern. I made that mistake. I heard of the Dragon Riders of Pern novels, and Anne McCaffrey had written a sort of an origin story Pern book, how like the Pern world kind of got established. And I was like, oh good, this is the first one chronologically. I'll start there. But it wasn't. Apparently, that is not the best Pern book. The prequel usually is not kind of where you want to start with that kind of stuff. So that kind of spoiled me on Pern, unfortunately. I've heard good things about it, but it just, put it aside at that point and haven't gone back yet. I did like what I read in terms of concept. Like, it's a neat idea, neat world. Oh, yes. Doing Patrick Stewart. The weird thing about the David Lynch movie is I'm actually on board with a lot of his casting choices, kind of, but some of them just feel weird. Patrick Stewart is just a little too stiff and Shakespearean for Gurney Halleck. Gurney is a much more rough and tumble kind of a guy. He's a weapons master, but he's more of a he's more blue collar than Patrick Stewart is, frankly, at least in the books. Other things like that, yeah, some of the other performances in that movie just kind of didn't work for me. Alia, oddly, somehow they managed to get a 7-year-old girl to perfectly capture Alia of the Knife. Yeah, the whole film was stiff. And again, here's the thing. I believe that was intentional to get across the excessive formality of this world, especially like all of the stuff with the various houses. Like that is a very stiff world, and so I think he was trying to represent that, but it just comes across as stiff. And Kyle MacLachlan is kind of. I love Kyle MacLachlan, and I love his performance in Twin Peaks. but I just don't think never felt like Paul. He did not feel like that character. And I don't think it was his fault. I think it was just miscast. The D&D film. The D&D film made a lot of mistakes. Yeah. The D&D film just tried to do too many things all at once, unfortunately. Although the D&D film is almost worth watching for Jeremy Irons' performance in that, because he is just hamming it up. He is chewing the scenery in every shot he is in, and it's just great fun. So yeah. And again, I love David Lynch. I watched a lot of Twin Peaks. I've watched several other David Lynch things. Like I'm a fan of his, but that was that was weird. I honestly think Jodorowsky would have done I don't want to say a better job, but I think he would have captured the dynamism of that world. I think people have. So for those not familiar, Jodorowsky, who is a famous sort of abstract impressionist filmmaker from Mexico, I believe, did a lot of weird movies. The Holy Mountain. He had planned to make a Dune movie and it fell through. And there's a documentary about Jodorowsky's Dune and the what he'd planned to do. And people watch that and are like, oh, this would have been amazing. The problem is it's easy to look at concept art and then project that forward through the million other decisions and changes that go through to actually make a film out of that and assume that all of those went well, right? I appreciate where he was going with that, and I think he had some neat ideas, but that does not guarantee the film would have been amazing. So I'm glad they did it, and that's nothing against Jodorowsky, but some folks kind of made a huge leap without that, saying that, well, if he'd done it, it would have been perfect. It's like, well, who knows all the other things that would have filtered into that. Who knows? But again, this is the kind of thing that I love delving into and talking about. All right. So no history, none of that stuff. Oh yeah, the Dune PC game. I played a good chunk of that. That was really good. A couple of Dune games. Dune is an ideal property for games in general because there's that inherent competition between the houses. There is a setting that has been very static that is now being upset by something, so it leads to great drama. And there are a small number of variables. Spice harvesting, worms, sandworms, the people who are harvesting, Fremen, all that stuff. And so you can set up those factions very, in a way that gives you some interesting strategy there. So, for the Dune movie, I'm excited, but whoever knows, right? Anyway, let me see here. I am thinking of doing a giveaway. Would anyone like a giveaway? I have sitting here, right there. That Ender's Game book. That hit me hard. I went into the Ender's Game novel, thankfully not knowing the twist, and read that and got to the end and was like, amazing stuff. So I have right here a copy of Neon Genesis Evangelion, Volume 1. But it's a very particular copy because this is the ADV Films release. The original ADV Films release from back in the day. See if it has a date on here. 1999. This is a 21-year-old DVD. The famous / infamous Evangelion DVD. Evangelion release. Get some of that back stuff. Quote from Wired magazine: Evangelion might just represent our next evolutionary strides. Okay, Wired. And yeah, this is that. You get the disc inside as well. There was unfortunately a little that's not scratches. There's a sticker that got on there, and so you could peel that off. In fact, I'm peeling it off right now. Yeah, that's coming right off. So this is the Evangelion Collection 01, complete with a very nice Misato there. And that little thing, which includes also advertisements for Ruin Explorers, Burn Up W, Sakura Wars. So if you've seen the Sakura Wars, Shin Sakura Wars recently, Legend of Crystania, Queen Emeraldus, and Battle Angel. So hey, given the film, so your ads for that. So if you would like to own this, if you would like this to be a thing that you have, we're gonna go ahead and see who's gonna get that by grabbing the anime genre die. I'm gonna need to change the focus again because otherwise we're not gonna be able to see this die at all. There we go, autofocus. So I'm gonna go ahead and roll the die. Oh, I gotta figure out the. Is it here? Where do I have the? That's not it. There it is. So I'm going to roll the die. And we have a genre. It is visible. So whoever can guess the genre that I rolled on the die, you will win this copy of Evangelion Disc 1. Go ahead and chat. What genre do you think it will be? See who gets it. It is not seinen. Not idle. Spin to win. Congratulations. It is sports. Well done. A little hard to read there. But we got sports this time. Congrats, Spin. I believe I have your address. But I'm going to go ahead and before I forget, do I have your address, Spin? You change it, then please DM or Discord me with your new address, and I will send that off. And now I need to write down. Spin to win. I'm now getting flashbacks to mailing out spin to win. To mailing out all of the winners from the charity auction. Because I put sticky notes on what everyone had won. So yeah, oh, I've got to turn that off. Never mind, that's not a thing anymore. And I can tell you guys now, because it's been a month, and I don't think anyone will feel offended by this, or I think everyone will take this in the right tone. I spent about as much money shipping out winnings for the charity auction as we raised for the charity auction. Partly because we got somebody who I had to ship one of the cells to the UK. And the shipping was $200. Because it had to be wrapped and insured. Like that was double pane glass. You know, it was a. I think it was the Pocoroso cell. So it was expensive, right? So it had to be shipped well. But yeah, and again, I am fine with that. I have no problem with that. I am, I had budgeted for it. It is not a problem. I'm not complaining. It was, and everything else up to that point, I was like, okay, I'm spending, a good chunk of cash on this. That's understandable, shipping to a bunch of different places. But then shipping that cell to the UK was just, I had no idea. So, again, not complaining. It's fine. It's just one of those things where it's like, wow, that was, That was unexpected. Um, so I think next time if we do a charity auction, it might have to be limited to the U.S. Yeah, you can't just bubble wrap a cell, unfortunately. And it's got to be like, you know, in a big box. It's got to be carefully done. Um, so yeah. So again, it was just funny that happened. Yeah, just another fundraiser just for the shipping costs. Yeah, quite possibly. And well, the other thing about the fundraiser, to be clear, is I had been looking to fuzziness again, still fuzzy. Um, I had been looking to clear out some of my collection anyway, so it was actually nice to be able to, get rid of that stuff. And I was gonna pay to have it shipped. Whoever's gonna get it, I'll be shipping it out anyway. So that's fine. Um, nice, and man, a lot of releases of Evangelion. Yeah, yeah. I am thinking of redoing on. It's weird enough to think OnCon was just 1 month ago. It was end of March was when we did OnCon. Feels like it was longer ago. Weirdly enough. But I think I am going to do another thing. What do you guys think? I was originally thinking of doing more OnCons, short OnCons every couple of months. So every 3 months or so, we do like a day long OnCon. But I think given COVID-19, folks are kind of jonesing for another OnCon, perhaps a little more, um, a little sooner than that. So OnCon was an online anime convention that I hosted here on this very YouTube channel last month. So basically, we did trivia, we did panels, I did panels, other folks came in and did panels. We did a charity auction, a bunch of other stuff here live on YouTube, just like this. And I just streamed all weekend. So it was a lot of fun. It was really cool. We had trivia going on in the Discord. Folks posting art in the Discord. We had a side tube going showing a whole bunch of anime. Um, so yeah, um, if we did it again in every quarter, it would be, well, late June, so 2 months from now. Um, what would you think about doing it sooner? I think is basically the question. I'd kind of like to do it again sooner, but again, shorter, probably just like 1 day. Um, and try to come up with some structure for it. This might be a con where I do more of my own panels, just because I have more control over that. Um, and I can kind of get out some of that material. And if other folks did panels, they would probably be submitting like a video, like a pre-recorded video of their panel, just so again we have a little more, for lack of a better word, oversight. Not that I don't trust them, but just to make sure that they're not accidentally streaming something, or something that will get me taken down. Um, that's a good point. So maybe while we're on lockdown, we do on cons a little more often, or a lot more often, and then we settle into a different schedule. That's not a bad idea. Yeah, Saturday con. Okay. So maybe in a couple of weeks. So what if I did this in 2 weeks? It is. Let me just check my schedule. So May 9th, I am free. It is the Saturday before Mother's Day. So that weekend, if I'm counting correctly. No, no, no. Yes, yeah. So Mother's Day weekend, that's Saturday, we could do a shorter on-con. Again, do some trivia, do some other stuff. Come up with some games, come up with some craziness. Yeah, maybe we'll do that. Cool. Then I will start making some plans for that. Sweet. Let me think. Is there anything else? I don't have any history this today. Again, I kind of want to do more segments on the weekly dig, to be honest, just so there's more stuff to go on. But I think that's good. And I'll think about some kind of sci-fi thing. That'll be fun. Cool. I think that will do it for us for tonight. It is. Oh, another thing I wanted to bring up. I'm going to try over the next week or so to gather some various folks that I know, some of whom are in this very chat room, to start coming in at some point during the weekly dig to do a sort of post-news discussion show, where I would share the news with them ahead of time, and we would pick some subset of those news items that we want to talk about, and we kind of dig into those. It would be a commentary, or a combination of, if we know more about this and provide more context, great, or if we can dig more into, if we can sort of ask helpful questions about it and kind of speculate in a reasonably informed way about it. So, we may not have insider knowledge, but we can say, okay, they're doing this probably because of that. Here's why that would happen. That's something I'm going to try to do. That'd be great, JJ. All of those folks. Cool. I will post in the Discord with more details about OnCon and stuff we could use. So yes, I want to kind of add that as another segment on the weekly dig. And it would be kind of again, freeform in the sense that we would have certain news stories to talk about, but it wouldn't be, okay, you're gonna say this and you're gonna say this, and hopefully it would be a sort of panel discussion show about what's going on in anime. And we could also talk about other things, but I'd kind of like to do something that's more like a traditional, again, sort of podcast panel discussion kind of a thing. I think that'd be fun. So FYI, that is coming up. All right, I think that's going to do it for us for this evening. It would be probably a video. I'd like to get the folks on video if they have video available. Otherwise, they'd be voice. But I think being able to see the person helps a lot. So yeah, it's a possibility, and we might change people out over time. This is very very free form as kind of we figure out how things go. But it'd be kind of a throwback to, for anyone who remembers or has seen the old videos where I would do the Saturday night streams with Matt and Brad and all the others, kind of a throwback to that. So that'd be kind of fun. Anyway, I think that'll do it for us for tonight. Thank you all very much. As always, it's been a great conversation. So yeah, I think that will do it, and we will transition over to SciTube. Let me just throw the URL in there. Good, it's already on commercial, so that's fine. So here is that. We're going to watch episodes 6 through, I think, 9 or 10 of Utena. We'll see. It's kind of late already, so I might, I might hold off after 4 episodes. We'll see. But I hope you guys will join me over on SciTube for some Revolutionary Girl Utena, and I will see you all over there. We will watch some of that. Should be interesting. Utena is always interesting. Thank you all so much. Have a great week. Until next time, yes, time to revolutionize the world. Watch more anime.